Right, let's just jump straight into this. I'm having a bit of a fight with myself at the minute, back and forth about whether I do a cold opener or whether I jump straight into an opener. So the past few weeks I've been trying different ones. So I'm not quite sure what's about to happen, but we'll see what's happened. Always got to experiment, always got to have fun with these things.
Sure.
All right then, I think yeah, we'll do it this way. Yo, how are you doing, folks? Welcome to episode 132. I can still do hand gestures because we're in low numbers right now, although many episodes are falling ever more every week, and we will crawl our way towards 420. That's my goal anyway. I don't know, that's probably like 5 years from now at the rate I'm going, but we'll keep trying. We'll keep trying. We're well and truly into January. We are past Blue Monday, as they call it. I hope you fine folks are finding some joy, finding some connection, finding some good bud, and sharing it with some good people. And I think, yeah, I know it's only the 19th. I'm guessing it'll be the 19th when this is out. It's only, yeah, towards the 20s of January. I know we have the joke that January has 700 days in, but believe me, you can make it through. You will get there. And this year's a leap year. So next month we have a fun extra free day at a time of year when it's maybe not so shitty. In fact, you may be able to take a short city break. And if you are one of my UK guests, I know one of your favorite destinations. And there you go. That's a segue. That's a professional segue there, folks. From me waffling shit onto an introduction for today's guest, who is a Dutch cannabis advocate. He likes it. I'm a consummate professional here. Yes, so today's guest, who is a Dutch cannabis advocate, a regular cannabis cup judge, a manager and part owner of the new up and coming 1% Club Coffee Shop in Amsterdam, and the host of the awesome the High Cloud podcast. They are Uncle Kush. How are you doing, brother?
I'm great, thanks. How are you, bro?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm in a very good mood. Like I say, we're slowly getting rid of January, moving into brighter days, warmer days. So I'm
And now we're
optimistic.
past now we're past Blue Monday. We can dive into Green Friday.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right. I'm excited for this one because obviously I've just learned a little bit of news before we start recording as well. That means I've got even more questions to add to my giant list of questions here. So let's dive straight in with it. For people that maybe don't know, obviously you and I both suffer as a consequence of social media censorship. So often people in our groups don't know about each other. So anyone that might not have known about yourself or your work, how and when did you first get involved with cannabis?
Well, I started smoking out pretty young. I was 13 years old, way too young. Always had a beautiful relationship with the plant. I stopped once in a while, but always fell back in love. And then I started when I was about 18 years old. I noticed that I was really using it as a medicine as well in my life because I had chronic back pains. So I had my physician write me what do you call it, for medicinal cannabis,
Like a prescription.
and I started, yeah, prescription, and I started getting it from the pharmacy every now and then, but noticed that the quality was not that good. And then I discovered online a thing called cannabis oil around 2015, 16. And that really opened my eyes. It changed my life. And it really made me aware that cannabis is so much more than just getting high. And I really dove into the subject. I went online, started reading everything I could about it, and then came a point where I wanted to do something with my life that I actually enjoyed instead of just working for money and things. So that's the point in my life where I decided to do cannabis. And while I had never written a blog before, I just applied to the website where I was always getting my information from. Like, hey, I love you guys. I'm always checking out your content, and I'd love to contribute in any way. Is there any way I could come work for you guys? And they said, yeah, sure, why not? Come over. We're about to launch a website about medicinal cannabis soon, and you might be the dude for that. And that's how it all started for me in 2016, 17, 16, I think. I started working with the guys, did over a year there, uh, read a lot and written a lot of cannabis content about, yeah, how cannabis works in the human body and the different cannabinoids and terpenes and receptors and all these flavonoids and all this different information, and super interesting. But in a sense, it was always about sick people as well, you know.
Mm-hmm.
While that's a big part of cannabis, and it can help a lot of people feel better and be more positive in life, I was just a young dude in an office reading all these comments every day about people that were really sick, and that was the point that I thought, like, okay, I definitely like medicinal cannabis still as a thing, as a subject, and I want to still advocate for it, and I still use it medicinally. But for me to, as a young dude, be working in this industry where I was also taking a lot of these stories home with me, you know, these were
Mm-hmm.
people with cancer, people with chronic pains, people that couldn't walk, people that had all these brain injuries, all these crazy things that I was taking that all home with me, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I really got depressed by all these stories. And there was one point, there was a girl who was actually the same age as my wife was at that point, and she had terminal cancer, you know, and she was gonna die, bro, and that hit so hard, and that stuck on to me, and I was like, I can't deal with this on a daily basis anymore, you know, because
Mm-hmm.
I want to help everybody. I want to see everybody be healthy and fine, but I can't just I don't have the ability to do it for everybody. So I have to stop trying. And so I dove into the recreational market, and started working for a cannabis seed company. Did the marketing and a lot of other stuff as well for Amsterdam Genetics for a while. Learned a lot about the coffee shop industry at the Boerenjongen Sloterdijk location. Our office was just above that. And I was doing a lot behind the scenes. It was super interesting, really major stepping stone for my career as well, because say what you want to say about the organization, it still is a really big organization. So you're about to learn a lot of shit when you work for an organization like that, and if you're willing to, you know. And But yeah, I hit a ceiling there at one point, and then felt the need to do something good again for the world or
Mm-hmm.
something. So then I started working for a CBD producer here in the Netherlands, who does over 200 brands all over the world. Major producer, and he had his own brands and everything. So we started to do some marketing and help out with the website with that. Um, but then again, I was sitting in an office all day dealing with sick people, and that whole situation came back. So then I went back into the recreational market when I was asked to be a salesperson for Green Lane, a wholesaler in all these vaporizers and the vibes papers and cookie stuff and Santa Cruz grinders and everything. So that was super cool because I got to meet a lot of cool people in the cannabis space,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, and really got, like, it was, this was COVID period, so a lot of people are staying at home, and I was just going from coffee shop to smart shop, talking to people, being out there as much as I wanted to, and as much as it was allowed, you know.
Yeah.
So it was a cool period, and I learned a lot there, made a lot of good connections. But that ended. That they It was an American company, and they were doing some crazy things, and that led to the fact that they couldn't pay me anymore. So that's when they stopped my. They didn't renew my contract in 2022, and I had a little bit of money sitting, and I had all this time, and I had all these plans that I always wanted to do, and that's when I thought, fuck it, let's do it, let's try, let's see what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
And Did the thumbs up come before because I said
I
fuck?
I am not sure what that was. I've never seen that
Oh.
before in 130 episodes. I've never seen that happen on Zoom.
Yeah, I'm gonna say fuck a lot
Interesting.
more. Sorry about that already.
No, I
In
swear
advance.
constantly. That's the first time I've ever seen it. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure what that was about.
Glad that wasn't it. Glad that wasn't it.
Yeah, it was on both
So
sides. It wasn't just in your head. Yeah.
but yeah, so April 2022, that's when the whole podcast idea came to life. It was something that was in my head for ages since the first cannabis job I had. I was suggesting to my employers, hey, we should do something like a podcast or video content or something. And nobody ever wanted to invest in that. And then in 2022, when I had the means, the time, and the plans, it was just a matter of trying.
Hmm.
And we did it. And it was an instant hit. I mean, the numbers were crazy for Dutch principles, and looking up the what you said, the fact that we're censored, and it's very hard to push your content into the algorithm. As soon as you show a bud or some smoke, it's always something.
Mhm.
But yeah, the response was great from viewers and from also companies that wanted to come on and advertise on the show, and we just started building. We just started building on the brand. We went out to different parts of the Netherlands, showed coffee shops to people, talked to cool people. We went out to events like the expos in Berlin, the expos in Spain, cool events in the Netherlands, just to show the cannabis community what else is out there. Because uh, when I look at the Dutch way of consuming cannabis, the way I was brought into it, it's just some bad flour with tobacco. And and if you're like in most cases it's also haze or something, it's not even,
Mhm.
it's just to get you fucked up and nothing more. And I believe that cannabis deserves more than that, way more than that, and we should look at it as a more wholesome thing. And I want to show people that, and now people send me messages saying, "Oh, I learned so much from your podcast. I've stopped using tobacco. I've started following my nose. I always say follow your nose when you're going into the coffee shop and see what your body reacts to. If your body goes ooh when you smell something, that's probably something you should smoke. But I guarantee you, if your body goes you're not gonna like that.
Mhm.
And these are the things that most cannabis users or consumers don't even think about in the Netherlands, because it's just, yeah, give me something to get me high.
Yeah. It's an amazingly concise progression that you've had with this. I mean, obviously, it's fortunate in the Netherlands that there is a kind of quasi tolerated, decriminalized to an extent, like a de facto decriminalization. So we're looking the other way rather than a piece of paper decriminalization, which more like Barcelona, although actually technically since like mid 2021 that
Yeah.
piece of paper disappeared, and the new Barcelona mayor. Yeah, I mean, we'll get onto that in a bit, but yeah, that's a bit of a teaser for you folks. We'll some not good things coming out of Barcelona right now. But obviously, you've kind of benefited from being within the Netherlands that has this kind of established or will constantly establishing culture, because it's always reinventing itself as we see sort of every 5-10 years. I mean, there has seemed to have been a hesitance within the Dutch industry, but it's because it's always done its own thing, and what it does works in its borders. Whereas it seems everyone else is trying to take over the world. And so the coffee shops are world famous, are renowned, are this kind of bastion held as this almost church. Do you know what I mean? This kind of mentality. Obviously, coffee shops called the church,
Yeah.
and it. So from that, you've literally just kind of, as you said, you've I guess followed your nose of instinctive employment, And as we were talking about before we sort of started recording, is that the people with the passion and the truth, they seek each other. We can't help, no matter what walls they put up, how many barriers between us, how many miles, whatever censorship, we find each other. And you seem to have done that within the Dutch system, as you were saying, that from your experience in different facets, whether it be sort of the medical side, it be sort of the recreational side, it be in business, it be in culture, and then from that to be able to create a podcast that catalogs these stories, as you say, that represents the best of all. I think is brilliant. The fact that you put it obviously with English subtitles helps someone like myself that doesn't speak Dutch. No matter how many times I go to the beautiful country, I just can't seem to pick it up. Probably because I'm usually on mushrooms and weed when I'm in the country, but that's a different story. But yeah, I think it's great to have seen the success of it in the time frame that you've been putting it out, and I think I do see a lot of the people I follow around the world when it comes up on Instagram liked by, and it is people from different industries and communities around the world, and so it's brilliant to see such universal appeal, and but you keep it in your native tongue. I think it's wonderful to see, and I say that so I'm just learning editing and clips and putting bloody automated cues on and having to correct them.
You think that it's a plus that I do it in my native tongue, or should I start doing English
I,
content?
no, I think additionally you could do some English content, but I think that it's nice. Wait, I'm not a bigot. I'm pro Europe. I'm pro humanity, right? So I like to hear foreign tongue, even if it confuses me or whatever. It's it's almost in a voyeuristic kind of way. I'm watching you talk as you would talk. And as my experience of coming to Holland for like 20, or predominantly Amsterdam and The Hague for like 20 years, is when an English person walks in a spot, the Dutch start speaking English. So it's not something I'm usually exposed to. So then being able to see you talk with passion in your language about it's insightful, it's inspiring. And then to
Yeah.
have the well, as much as again, I can't check your work here, brother. I'm assuming the English subtitles you put into the same what you're saying in Dutch, but it does hold true. I can follow the conversation. Do you know what I mean? I can follow exactly what you're saying. So I personally wouldn't change anything, but I also watch everything with subtitles naturally anyway.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
some
okay.
English content, I think, or even just like I think more mishmash of languages and culture. We all should be doing it because we are a global culture.
Right.
We
That's what I
manifest
love about
locally,
my
but we are global.
that's what I love about my Cannabis content, because I also speak a little bit of Spanish, and then I walk around there talking English, talking Dutch, talking Spanish, and then even some Portuguese with a Brazilian dude coming in, and that gives for the best content for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, like I said, it allows people to. I say I'm non-bilingual. I speak what Geordie, which is like Northern English in English. So there's my bilingual skills. But yeah, even when speaking to someone, the fact that you have to almost change and modulate the language for the listener, so it means that you're not conveying it in the way that you want to. But if you can allow that person to truly, authentically speak, then you get far more from it.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
that's awesome, and I want to thank you as well. Actually, I saw you post on your Instagram your press accreditation, and I went shit. And last night I applied for my press accreditation for Cannabis, so I'll be sorted. I'll be seeing you there. But I did
Yep,
remember. I
needed,
did
needed.
remember.
Yeah, very, very needed.
Yeah,
Those
it's
tickets are expensive.
they're expensive, and for me, I like the consumer experience, but this is going to sound a bit elitist, and I do apologize for anybody that will be stuck in that queue. But being able to avoid the queue when you've got cameras and whatever else with you, and you've got a very set plan, and you are there for an experience per se, but you want to get in there, run around, and secure your interviews, secure your time slots with
Exactly.
people. It's a
Yeah.
really time sensitive thing, so it's not like you're
It's a
gaining
hard weekend's work. It's a really a
100%.
tough week. It's a lot of work for people like us trying to get everybody on video and filming cool content for the people staying at home, or for people to review after when they come back from the expo. It's definitely a difficult job, and then having the little benefit of skipping the line and making sure that you're fast in and can go in and out when you need it, when you forget the battery at home or forget this at home at the hotel, then you come back real quick. That's yeah, needed.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. For all it seems this conversation is trying to take us to talk about Barcelona and Cannabis, I do want to concentrate firstly on coffee shops, on the coffee shops in Holland at the minute, because obviously there is a current trial that it's taken a good few years to get off the ground, but it
Yeah,
is currently functioning in, and forgive my pronunciation, is it Breda and is it Tilburg?
yeah, that's not bad. Breda and Tilburg, not bad.
Sweet, sweet. All right, cool. I saw recently you did a recording with some of the people involved in one of the coffee shops that's doing the direct comparison. So for
Yeah,
people that don't, actually, I'm not even going to tell you. I'll let yourself tell these wonderful people what's going on up there, if you don't mind.
yeah. So in the Netherlands, the situation has always been, or always for the last 40, 50 years, that you can buy weed in the coffee shop, but the coffee shop is not allowed to purchase that weed because it's not allowed to be grown anywhere, which is kind of weird because where the hell does it come from then? Magic lands. Anyway, um, some a little bit smarter people in the government thought it might be a good idea to start experimenting with legal grow because we see cannabis being legalized all over the world. We saw an influx of imported cannabis into the Netherlands because all this legal weed and legal facilities made beautiful weed that eventually ended up here because the quality was way better and price was way better. And cracking down on the Dutch growers did not help quality in coffee shops at all because the imported weed often comes with mold. It's sometimes grown in bad environments with pesticides and that type of stuff. We had things from Eastern Europe come in that were it's borderline cancerous, and you don't want that.
Mhm.
Uh, Also, we see everywhere in the world they're legalizing cannabis, and like multiple countries in Europe want to legalize cannabis as well. Only problem is though the EU and the UN don't allow us to, as
Mhm.
long as we don't do it for research purposes. So some smart people thought it might be a good idea to research what happens if we allow legally grown weed to be sold in coffee shops. Smart thinking.
Mhm.
So there's now an experiment where there were 10 growers selected from like a list of hundreds and hundreds of people that applied for a license. 10 licenses were given out, and those 10 people or 10 companies were supposed to grow weed for coffee shops in 10 selected cities in the Netherlands. And now we've come to a point where it was all taking way too long because it's, for example, very hard to get a good location. Bless you. To get a good location for to grow weed or to get a bank account as a cannabis company in the Netherlands. So um, we got to a point where only one of the 10 selected growers was already harvesting weed, and the other nine is still hoping to get a bank account, hoping to start building soon, hoping to find
Mhm.
a spot to start building soon. And so a few cities, Breda and Tilburg, and one of that grower that was already pushing out weed, um, they plead with the government to start early. Please let us start to sell this weed that we've been harvesting. And the city's been are ready for us. Let's go. So the government decided that if three of the 10 growers were ready, then two of these cities could be supplied with legal weed already. So now we're actually in some sort of free phase of the actual experiment where two cities of the 10 are supplied by three growers out of 10. And this is because the growers are not on full capacity yet. You got to understand that the first drop of cannabis from the two growers that came in last, um, because the other one was already growing for a while, as I said. Um, so this weed was bad, or not up to the standard that you would expect from a legal grower, because one of them was growing it outdoors without a light even.
Mm.
You know, the other one was growing it in a greenhouse with a few lights, but had genetics that had to be taken down early to be able to get the deadline for the coffee shop.
Mm.
So imagine the quality that's been going around these coffee shops. And then what also doesn't help is the fact that um, coffee shops are allowed to have 500 grams at a maximum of stock in house at any given moment. This is a rule that they're gonna loosen up when the experiment starts. The experiment didn't actually start yet. So
Mhm.
in Breda and Tilburg, these coffee shops are still working with the 500-gram rule while needing to stock both the illegal and the legal stock. This legal stuff comes from a grower that's maybe 2 hours away, needs to come in with uh, like these secured cars and everything, because that's
Mhm.
just how they decided it needed to be. While your illegal weed is just a phone call away and 20 minutes around the corner.
Mhm.
And it can come in how many grams you want, but you have to order 20 grams minimum or 50 grams minimum or 100 grams minimums from the grower. You know,
Mhm.
so it's still a very difficult situation they're in. Um, Something that's also good because now we have like this pre-phase to knock out any problems that or issues that we might encounter in these first weeks and months, because you're definitely gonna have shit. There's always shit when you change something. Things
Mhm.
never go good, you know, never go smooth. So but yeah, it gives a little bit of room for improvement before the actual thing starts. Now we've given some pretty hard feedback to the growers as well. I mean, I'm in touch with a lot of these people. I actually talked to two of the growers, of which the quality was less than I would expect in this experiment.
Mhm.
Um, and I've given them some honest feedback, like this is not what we want to see, and definitely not for these prices. If you want to compete with the illegal market in a few months, then you're gonna have to step up your game, you know.
Mhm.
And we made a video about that as well, and a lot of a lot of the short form content that we put out there went viral because people were shocked that, for example, I found a seed in my legal weed. Like
Mhm.
that's that's not what you want or what you expect, right?
Mhm.
I mean, sensimilia is a thing. Like for a while now, you
Yeah.
know, it's been a
It,
thing since the 70s.
yeah, I mean it creates this kind of artificial binary between the almost the we have there's a TV show in the UK that had I kind of think what the TV show is now. Oh, what the hell is it? Peep Show, called Peep Show on Channel 4. And there's a character on that, and he's a bit of a dodgy guy. And there's a thing that became a meme, and it's basically the secret ingredient is crime. And that's what I hear every time I think of these goddamn things is whenever you put legal and get them nerds involved, all the bureaucrats and, oh, you can't park there, your vehicle's 3 inches from the curb, that kind of person, they don't understand cannabis. They don't understand our culture. They just go, well, here's a giant manual, follow all of these procedures, put no love into it, don't talk to it, don't care about it, don't, actually have that relationship to it that that's all I'm seeing around these spaces, and it's mental that those people believe that the way to deal with the criminality that arises from them criminalizing us is for them to grow our weed. It's just perplexing. It's so perplexing. It's literally like the experiment should be okay. I appreciate it. It's a good thing you're giving the feedback, But a part of me, a very sinister part of me, is kind of like, what if we don't tell them their shit weed comes, the experiment fails, and we go, oh, got to keep giving it to the lads that have been doing it for 40 years. When it should be, how do we make the lads that have got it right now not be criminals? If they want that opportunity, if they're not doing other things like, human trafficking, I'm not saying they are, but human trafficking, like involved in like sex trafficking or violence or
Harder
other drug.
drugs, weapons,
Exactly.
whatever.
If
Yeah.
they're literally just good weed growers, then we should be approaching those people, and it should be like NFL scouts, and it should be like a draft every season, every grow season, where the best growers can come out and these companies bid on them and be like, oh, we what do you want? We'll give you everything. Move to our space and grow our weed. And that it should be a reward for your knowledge and your passion.
What I would like to see, for example, is a situation where you can uh, rent a grow room at one of the licensed
Hmm.
growers. You just say, "Hey, listen, I've been growing this and that long. Here's some pictures from my old grows, whatever. You can see I'm not a full amateur." Or you can even have like a counselor, advisor walking around from the thing.
Hmm.
You rent out your spot, you put your genetics in the way you want it, everything. You go in every day if you want to, but it's monitored. So
Hmm.
whenever something fucks up in terms of electricity, water, things, whatever, you get a call. Hey, listen, this is happening. Can you be here in 20 minutes or should I handle it? Whatever, and then that goes out through an auction or something, you know?
Hmm.
That
No,
that was my idea.
I think, yeah, for a facility over a certain size, 100%. There should obviously be always discretionary home grow. I still, no matter where I've been, if it's Morocco
And
or fucking Canada or Oregon or wherever, and I've seen people's projects, their big thing, and I've gone, yeah, nice load of plants and love what you do, great. Where's your other grow? Where's your passion project with your 2 or 3 plants that you love? That's the one I want to smoke. And
that's a thing. I mean, I'm not against like call it here we call it Albert Heijn weed. If you're gonna look at the a big chain that's gonna do all the weed for everybody, like we're gonna smoke this all over the country. I'm not
mm,
against that per se, but allow us to grow. I mean, home grow is definitely the first thing we need to legalize. If you're talking about uh, giving a positive like message towards your cannabis consumer, legalizing home grow is number one. And in every country that you're gonna look where they've legalized any part of like rec use or grow, home grow is always legalized. Why?
mhm.
You're not gonna stop it.
Well,
Never.
it's an interesting one of Colorado versus Washington. So Washington State is now 14 years since its citizens voted to end cannabis prohibition, and you still can't grow at home in Washington State. And
Wow.
if it's
So
it's
with
meant,
exception of Washington State, then sorry about
yeah,
that.
yeah, but
Yeah.
but I get what you're saying because exactly that. It's you can't then go, oh well, we're going to allow this to happen because as soon as you lift the foot over here, the whole body can rise. I'm using it as a metaphor, and we're suppressed because that's exactly what we
And
are. We are
also
thriving
the
culture
black
already.
market, the black market won't have room to grow when people are growing at home. I mean, if I'm allowed to grow my own weed and I can buy my Walmart weed, what else do I need?
Wait,
I don't need a
It's
dodgy guy at my door anymore. Because if it's not the big chain weed for me, I can do it myself. Thank you so
it,
much.
well, exactly. They need to understand that, or what it used to be. Obviously, things have got really fucked up in the past sort of decade, maybe 2 decades, with like the acceleration of global Americana and fast food becoming regular food. It used to be the majority of your food you ate at home. You bought your ingredients, you did the work, you had that was your nutrition. Then if you went out, you could treat yourself. And you would
Yeah.
then buy a dinner or whatever else. Obviously, some people have different affluence and positions. You can afford to go out for every meal or whatever. And I'm not making a judgment against anybody for their social position. But what I'm saying is the idea of responsibility for one's own needs. There is something that will always taste better about making a damn good meal yourself than paying some other fucker for it. Yes, there is economic benefit to that guy working in the kitchen, the guy washing the dishes, waiting the tables, the whole economic structure. There's benefit to it. But that should always be secondary to our individual needs. And I completely agree. I mean, I did the math recently, and I don't know whether I should say it actually, really. And I'm gonna cover this with some potentials. I may or may not have, in some point recently, performed a cannabis grow in which, for an input of amount of money equal to about £700, I returned 30 to 32 ounces for about 23 to £25, potentially, if that could have happened. So people are then happy when they're getting eighths for £25. That's a good deal. So I'm not encouraging anyone to break the law, technically, but there is a huge economic incentive for one to be self-sufficient. So rather than spending 200 plus pounds on an ounce in some spaces, you spend 20 plus pounds, and then you have all of this other money. Yes, you take your risk, and obviously that calculation of mine doesn't include my labor and my time, because I'm not seeking to sell that product if I indeed made such product at all. But you get what I'm sort of saying, is that if we had that as our own stable, and then the others that can't grow, don't have access, and one of my mates, maybe came to me in this hypothetical conversation. This isn't something I potentially partake in, just in this hypothetical we're creating for entertainment purposes here. If they then came to me and went, I would like to procure one of those said ounces, I could then, if either be the good capitalist and go, well, market rate is £200 out, there's £200 for that. Or I could then go, well, all right, I know you're broke, I know times are tough right now. Rather than you spending £200 elsewhere, you maybe give me £100. You've got £200 worth of service and value, but £100 is in your pocket. If we did that to everybody, do you know how much economic stimulation we would have? Millions of people would have more money to, guess what, pay taxes. We would pay every time we go to the shop and we buy munchies. We're putting more money back into our economy. And if our political class was doing its job, that money would be filling in potholes, paying for schools. It would be building new infrastructure. It would be fucking fixing our waterways and systems, renewable energies, etc. Whereas all that money is currently siphoned off into often the most violent and shitty people in society, because in competitive markets, I mean, even in Amsterdam, where it's considered this bastion of progressive order, there is still certain groups of individuals that drive around and threaten coffee shop owners and go, "Oh, you sell our weed, or we drive around at 2 in the morning, pop two gunshots into your front door, you're shut for a month. Economically, you're fucked." There is these whole systems of exploitation that will always exist, but it gets hyper worse
Yeah.
the further you move from it. And
Yeah.
it's just one of those things that we can see and understand because we've lived it. But when you talk to one of these bureaucratic types, they go, no, 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 no. My friends run data companies. My friends run consulting companies. My friends run giant international horticultural companies. They know how to do this. And when you ask them if they've ever grown a plant or if they even smoke cannabis, they look at you like, I'm not a criminal.
Stop
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Yeah. It's terrible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's terrible.
crazy. It's fucking crazy. So,
No, but it's nicely put, and that's the thing. As long as you're criminalizing a part of the chain, there's always gonna be some criminal shit involved. There's always gonna be people involved that are sketchy and that might also do other things or whatever, or that money is also going into like this criminal system and not supporting what the industry, for example, or paying taxes and
mhm.
legalizing in that way would help solve a lot of shit. I mean, but we're preaching to the choir here, I think, about
Yeah, yeah.
legalization.
Well, I mean, it would help in some ways, but it would create obviously its whole other set of problems, and this is why I always state that like legalization cannot exist without decriminalization, because otherwise legalization just means that corporations and certain individuals with enough influence and money can do what they want, which is kind of what is happening under criminalization, where you have big, especially in the UK, we have a huge conglomerate of, well, not necessarily connected Albanian groups that are growing vast amounts. Obviously, they're not paying into the system by, like, again, if under my story from before, I'd be paying tax on my seeds, on my feed, on my electric, on my water. I would be paying into that system. Whereas these larger conglomerates then often will, traffic individuals or intimidate individuals into producing large amounts. They're exploiting their labor. And so under then these larger farms in America, they end up doing the same. These legacy people that were once supplying the whole culture are now lucky to get a trimming job because of a criminal record they've got. It, so I think there has to be that merger of culture and industry to create our better future. And this is why I often say that the coffee shops and the cannabis social clubs, they are the pointed edge of our progression through their ignorance. And so I'm always interested in hearing what's happening. So what's the quality of bud like? What is happening sort of on the ground to people that are directly comparing what's available on the menus in these cities?
What you
Oh,
see a lot lately is a lot of Canadian weed coming in,
mm,
because at the end of the day, we're still living in a society where most people smoke cannabis with tobacco. So it's easy to mask like the quality of weed with tobacco. And this is rather cheap weed with a good uh, or maybe okay smell, and it looks fine, but most of it is yeah, full of mold or uh, grown with pesticides or things that
mhm,
or PGRs that we're not allowed to use in Europe with certain reasons.
mhm,
Um, and the other side, you also see a lot of like expensive Cali products coming onto the market lately. You've seen the influx of brands coming in, and the baggies and
mhm.
the 2 gram rosin jars costing you 250, but also now the 7 gram jar, something that recently pops up because in Dutch coffee shops are only allowed to buy 5 grams at a time,
Mhm.
5 grams per day per coffee shop, actually. Um, but some coffee shops are selling the whiskey jars with 7 grams, and I already seen some of the 28 grams, the ounce jars going at the green place
What?
with the Versace and I don't know what from the crazy, completely nuts, costing almost 1,000 euros,
Yeah,
980, I think.
yeah. You see that with any kind of emergent industry or captured culture. When capitalism kind of comes around and that an investor class goes, wait a minute, how much money can be made? They kind of jump into it, and as they pull up that wealth, then the criminals turn around and go, wait a minute, how much money are they making? And
Yep.
so a lot of what I found, and again, I say this every time I mention this anecdote, I'm not going to dob you in. I enjoyed our time and had the conversation. When I was in Northern California, I met a farmer who explained to me the process of getting rid of a waste product. And so he was like boxing up products. We were outside of a trim room, like moving through a facility, and he went like, "This box here," tricked on the table. And we're right. This box has failed test X, Y, or Z. So I then go, okay, I need to put this in the bin. So I get a form, take said form, I fill in this form, I get my tax back from that. Yeah, it's not then a loss of the potential worth of that box, the 10,000, 20, whatever thousands, obviously less in the American market massively, but once it gets out of that market, it just increases exponentially. And he says, once that's in that bin, nobody comes and checks my bin. I've said it's in the bin. I've got my money back as far as the system's concerned. So all, or not all, a large percentage of the Cali product that we're seeing in mainland Europe and in Little Britain over here, and Flooding Island as well, because of major port cities, is stuff that's failed pesticide tests, heavy metal tests. They are not
Especially the loose, and all
the
that type of
little
stuff,
the
unbranded
small
stuff.
popcorns. Yeah.
Because the funny thing is that some of those brands that we know and love over here are better known here, or more renowned here in Europe and the UK than they are in the United States.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the Doges of this world and the Fidels and everything. Fidels also big in the US, but they're they're huge here.
Hmm.
So some of these brands, they send their best stuff here,
Hmm.
while to build the hype and whatever. While the big stuff that we see coming in, the lemon cherry gelato with no brand on it, you
Hmm.
can bet your ass on that 90% of the shit you smoked was bad. Like it had mold, pesticides, PGRs, whatever the fucking word that you weren't
Hmm.
supposed to be smoking. You definitely smoked it. Those kinds of weed, definitely. But the Canadian stuff is worse. I had a podcast with Greg Dennett from a lab called Cannabis, and he tests a lot of cannabis samples for coffee shops, and then I have this QR code, and you can check that and everything. And he says that the worst of the worst in general is the Canadian weed in terms of
Mhm.
mold and other contaminations that we don't want to see. Yeah,
But the Canadian system blew up so fast, and just the little fish ate the bigger fish ate the little fish until there's a couple of sharks left, and then they just ran out of food. And so they're kind of just circulating now, and the industry, they can't really get it below, I think, the 50% mark. They're really struggling to get it under 50% of the like gray area legacy market sales still continuing. And it's because again of a lack of understanding. These people are coming in, I say these people in the loosest terms, these again bureaucrats that we kind of spoke of before, and going, well, cannabis is criminality until it's legal. Then when we make it legal, anything after that, as long as it's in the rules, is fine. When it's the wrong thing. To me, it's more analogous to how like the British criminalized homosexuality, and a European hero in Alan Turing, helped deal with the German fucking coding machine that helped fucking cut World War II by like what, a year, 2 years. If you believe our propaganda, I say our propaganda, our publications, which may very well be propaganda. But he was then chemically castrated. So he effectively has gone down in history as winning the war for Britain, then was chemically castrated because he was a homosexual. And then years later, the law has changed. And then it wasn't until maybe 10 years ago the government issued an apology, obviously posthumously because he was long since dead. But it feels like it's the same kind of thing, that we need to admit that you were wrong and go back and fix the problem rather than go, okay, we were wrong, we'll fix it from now on. You don't deserve to be in our lives. You're the oppressor. You're the guy that ruined our lives and that limited our potential. And now we have an opportunity to build an industry and culture. They're trying to find these ways to shut it down, to limit it. And this is where again you see like the Fidels and that of the world, the Doges actually coming out of the state. They're not trying to win in that capitalist game. They're trying to show themselves to the culture, to the people who were here for
that's
the
what I love
decades
about
prior.
Fidel. I had a great session with Fidel here in Amsterdam. He came over and we did a private session with him in Greenhouse on the Soulstraat. Shout out to Goa for arranging the spot then. And it was a great time. And then we talked a little bit about his career in the market as well. And he was once an LP and now he's not. So
Mhm,
he 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 willingly stopped like growing legally because of the headache
mhm,
and the restrictions that he had. And he's way happier doing the things that he's doing the way he's doing it now, building the brand, going out, doing what he wants. And the people love him for it. And the product show, the passion.
mhm.
And that's what we need. And passion cannot be contained sometimes. I mean, how are you going to contain an artist in his art?
Mhm.
Like,
Ex-
is it then still his art?
No, I think that is a beautiful way to look at it in terms of the way that it manifests so differently in the way people go, I wouldn't do it that way. I'd do it this way. And it's like, yeah, well, then go do it your way. Be you, authentically represent you, because there is so much scope and space. Like cannabis would dwarf the alcohol industry if allowed, like in terms of the culture globally. It just
It does in a lot of states in the
Mhm,
U.S. where rec use is allowed. You see that the alcohol consumption and the Xanax and all that type of bullshit, the opioids, all that shit, all goes down. People
mhm,
start using more weed, get happier, less crime, less drug use, less alcohol use, less death. It's
mhm.
it's all in the numbers. We can all. It's been proven.
Yeah,
Uruguay, Uruguay. Go check it out. It's
mhm.
cool. They're still alive. You know.
Yeah, no, exactly that. All of the prohibitionists kind of prophecies of, the potheads crashing into each other, millions dying on the streets, and all these children getting addicted. I mean, the US figures recently have come out, and it's actually trailing down. So the likelihood of teens using cannabis is going down the more access adults have to it. And obviously part
Yeah,
of that
because it's
is
not cool anymore, you know? If
exactly
it's not cool
my
anymore,
dad does it.
everybody's doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, the kids are like, my dad does weed. I'm not going to do that. So then they're doing, yeah, kind of the other things. That's a whole other conversation. Um, but yeah, so it's the
Sorry about that.
no worries, no worries. So let's have a little bit of a talk then. You maybe hinted at earlier a bit of an exclusive. Obviously, there's been a little bit of background noise while we've been recording here because you
Yeah.
are somewhere special. Do you fancy revealing that and letting us know what you've been up to with this?
Yeah. So this might or might not be the new location for the 1%.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, yeah. We've
So
it's a dream coming true. I've met a few investors a while back, and and they were looking, or yeah, they're acquiring all kinds of cannabis businesses, and it's a really cool dude. And I asked him, so would you want to have a coffee shop? And he said, yeah, that's impossible. And I told him, no, bro, nothing is impossible. And now we're almost a year later, uh, but we found a great location, and we're opening doors soon.
nice, nice. Do you have an idea of sort of when people can expect doors to be opening? Or is that
Uh,
hush hush right now?
yeah, I
Okay,
can't
I'll
answer
include
for.
the link to Instagram below where people can keep an eye out
Yeah,
on the
that's a good
page.
idea. I'll go follow the Instagram page, and more info will follow soon.
Excellent, excellent. I suppose then it leads me on to sort of the last sort of question I guess I've got around coffee shops really, or one of the last questions. The influx you were talking about before, obviously you've seen like a lot of loose Cali and a lot of like coffee shops having half Cali menu, half just a menu, as it were.
Yeah.
Um, what do you make of or think whether it be good or bad of kind of an influx of UK and US brands? I don't want to. I'm trying to think of the right word to say it. Um, like operating inside of established coffee shops. So sort of the keeping the loose branding of the original coffee shops, but then the new brand comes in. I'm thinking like cookies, etc. Like is that benefiting the coffee shop scene, would you say, or what's sort of the consequences of that happening?
The plug did a lot for the Dutch cannabis community. You know, when they
Mhm.
came in around 2016, I call it the plug effect. I've been talking about it on my podcast as well. When they came in around 2016, 17 in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam with their first coffee shop, they changed the game. They came with real flavors for a fair price from Spanish grow, great genetics. They had affordable Cali, and that really made a lot of shops think, okay, we need to step up our game, and they did, and it's really showed, and it was great. Um, and now you feel, but that the plug is a UK brand, you know.
Mhm.
But then what I don't like to see is like the collaboration with the Cookies Lounge in Greenhouse, for example. You know, it's nothing more than like a fresh paint that they put on. It's a blue lounge. It's nothing. They don't
Mhm.
even sell the original stuff. Tyson, on the other hand, that's a cool concept. I mean, they did it. It looks nice. He's been there, you know. They have
Mhm.
all the names on the menu that you want to see there. The Knockout OG and the Face Off, and yeah, the Mike Bites. That's an ear with the bite taken out of it. It's just it makes sense. It's a
Mhm.
cool concept, and it's not for me to hang out every day, you know, as a local. But if you're here, you need to go check that out. You know, you need to take a picture with the with the with the huge Mike Tyson on the wall. You need that. That's
Mhm.
part of the Amsterdam experience, of course. Just like coming to the 1% will be part of the Amsterdam experience once we open doors. You know,
Yeah.
take a picture with Uncle Kush.
Nice, nice. I am considering coming back from Cannabis via Amsterdam this year, so I don't know if that might be in the right time frame. If it is, I'm
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
definitely
We're opening doors way sooner than that. We're talking like in a few weeks.
oh wow,
We're
wow,
opening
wow.
doors.
There you
Yeah,
go,
yeah,
folks. That's real exclusive. Definitely check out links below to find
yeah.
out where to keep up to date with that one. Um, yeah, interesting. Uh, it is good to see that kind of then just anything where a new person like comes into the an older space, it does naturally kind of shake things up, and it's good to hear that as from a local's perspective, being sort of generally to the benefit. I am a bit, and this is again the cynic in me, maybe a bit worried about the fact that American brands are having to leave their air quotes legal jurisdictions to come to an illegal jurisdiction to, without restrictions, publicly promote their brands. And I'm just worried that if Europe was to then follow America, where do we all go to have that cultural representation? Because
No,
everyone was jumping on Thailand, but Thailand are very much looking like they're going to try and reverse quite a lot of things.
no, I think the markets are very different, and they will stay different because the demographic, the people you're
Mm,
dealing with are different in general, and that makes yeah the difference in business. You know,
mm,
I studied retail and business, and I had to learn all about demographics and people and all that type of shit and how to target the right people, whatever. But um, so there's always going to be a difference between the Dutch and the tourists, or you know, so the
mm,
the way you see coffee shops in Amsterdam is different than outside of Amsterdam, for example. You know,
mm,
it's different markets. I
mm,
think that the Americans, definitely the brands trying to come in, like a Tyson, a Cookies, or whatever, and there's some more coming next year or this year. I know there's a new artist coming. I know there's another what you call it. Tyson will probably get a new one.
mm,
Um, so and there's those that wants to open up a coffee shop in 24. So there's a lot of people looking.
mm,
So but they're gonna have to do the Dutch thing or the Amsterdam thing, just the way that the Spanish social clubs they do are still in like the Spanish social
mm,
clubs should be. You know, they're
mm,
managed by locals or people that understand the local situation. Uh, my partners are Americans, but I'm the manager here.
mm.
I decide how we run business because I understand the demographics. I
Yeah.
understand what we're doing here. And if they're going to tell me how we should be running things in the Netherlands, then they should be first understanding how this works because we're dealing with different people. And this is what I've seen happening with Greenlane, for example, the company I was working for doing the wholesaling. They came in with the American idea, pushing it and on us like this is what you need to do because we're doing that here.
Mm,
Yeah, you need to be selling 4 million vaporizers in the Netherlands, and I'm like, bro, how? You know, everybody smokes with tobacco. We need to educate these people first. This is
mm,
not the things you're gonna be profiting from on a short term. You know, you
mm,
got to be with the demographic to understand where are your success points, and then later you can always try to push them on to certain things. But
mm,
start start making some money first. They're a business there, you know. You got to cater to the locals. I'm a guy. I only smoke pure joints. I don't do tobacco anymore for a long time, 8 9 years. But I still gonna need to have pre rolls on the menu with tobacco in them.
mm. Yeah, I
You
mean,
know.
you've got to, yeah, it's the same as like so I'm a quiet vegan, I guess. I'm not one of these loud ones. But it's the same sort of thing. If it's the representation I want in a restaurant of being there should be a milk that I want for the coffee that I seem to be addicted to and drink copious amounts of. The same way that should, if it was reversed, there should then be the token thing of the cow's milk available. If people then drink cow's milk, and a lot of these people would want that, you provide the service not just for like good kind of business practices as it were, but also for I guess inclusion and
Yeah,
representation of it. That's what the best of the coffee shops I've found are just they are welcoming. They are so
yeah.
uniquely and so unapologetically themselves, but the people that comes in them, you could literally meet a tourist from every part of the world and locals from different political spectrums, ages, and beliefs. You know what I mean? It's the
Because
smorgasbord of individuals. That's the cultural melting pot. You know?
the most important thing for a coffee shop is the social function. So there's a big part of Amsterdam coffee shops that have stopped doing lounges, and that doesn't help because we are all like the black sheep. Like most of us are the black sheep in regular society, and this is the place where we're just like you and me, and like
Mhm.
we're with equals. This is the place where some people only come to the coffee shop to have a little chat with the people there, because it's the only place where they feel heard or seen.
Yeah.
So uh, that's definitely the most important part of the coffee shop, and that's why this Dutch model is so recognized all over the world because you don't have it anywhere else. Now, New
Yeah.
York, now maybe, but
New
that was
York
the Dutch
is
model.
I can say New York is trying, but almost by kind of by accident. They just basically wrote in where you smoke a cigarette, you can smoke weed. Yeah, you can consume cannabis. So that kind of opened up a whole Pandora's box for them compared to, I mean, Colorado are still trying to figure out consumption spaces, and they're one of the
Yeah,
legacy spots that are now 10 years into open regulation. Obviously, no, November this year will be 10 years, but close enough. It's within the right year.
we've been
And yeah,
since the 60s.
yeah, look at Las Vegas. Vegas, the Western decadence where until not that long ago you could do Jesus Christ just about anything. And I suppose if you've got enough money, you still fucking can. But they still haven't figured out enough of the lounge spots yet. I mean, these are going to be cash cows, and there's still that bureaucratic system of people are going, yeah, but what about this eventuality, rather than again looking at it as the Dutch are doing now of how I think most people should a rational experiment and go, okay, we know the data that we've got on what we've done up to this point. What we need now is what will happen if we aren't doing that. Compare and then regulate the Venn diagram in the middle, the things that actually need intervention. Because, like you say, most people will organically want to learn about cannabis and go on a journey with their relationship with it if unrestricted. Most people will just go, I smoke weed, and they will literally want to smoke a joint and then have got to hide it the rest of the time. They're worried about their smell, their eyes being red, their job ever finding out. So they never like a Facebook page. They never listen
Yeah,
to a podcast because they don't want that analytics knowing. That I know so many people that are like that. And I don't understand it, but I do understand it. I found
yeah.
comfort in going the extreme other way and just being so unashamedly and loudly and proudly to the point of it kind of confuses most of the authorities. But
So
I
for
can understand. Yeah.
when I go to a birthday party, I'm the one. If someone's smoking a cigarette outside, I'm gonna light up this big ass fucking joint, and people are gonna look at me like, "What the fuck are you smoking? A trunk?" You know?
It
Yeah,
gets yeah, it's because it should be that equity. That's what legalization looks like to me. Legalization under its current paradigm is over-regulation by the same people that call us bad people for consuming cannabis. And I know we have to
I
kind of
think
let
that the
them
goal, our first goal, should be normalization, not
100%. And
legalization.
e- e-
Normalization.
exactly. And I think the way we get there is these pilot schemes of open access, and it should start with all right, do like you said, social clubs with kind of what Germany promised first time round with the first draft of their kind of air quotes legalization bill, which was kind of clubs you sell back to the clubs can then distribute the network. There's then not a profit share, but people are paid and everyone's kind of looked after throughout the system. Um, that kind of mechanism, yeah, an experiment with that where it's then the people that are consuming and partaking are also benefiting. Whereas
Yeah.
otherwise, we're just going from being exploited by the criminals, a certain level of criminality that just want to make money, to then just these legal people that just want to make money, and no one wants to listen to us and, like, say, represent us. So I'm watching with great interest, obviously, what kind of happens as a result with the Dutch experiment. Obviously, like I said, we've got Switzerland as well. Bern's looking very interesting as a European short city stay for anybody. They've just announced recently as well, they're looking at the potential for a cocaine pilot. Not as in a guy to get really high on cocaine and fly planes, but as in a pilot scheme in Switzerland to sell cocaine, which coincides with, interestingly, Bolivia, I believe, in 2021, 22 maybe. I always get confused
That's
when we
very
keep.
good.
They did a calculation that basically said that it was cheaper for them as a country to buy all of the cocaine that the cartels produce before it leaves the country than spend money trying to defend against it. So Colombia have also put in a thing last year into the UN, kind of tacitly saying, what would happen if we, created a legal cocaine market?
Wow.
Obviously, this will piss off the Americans, if they're still going on with, fucking, what was it called? The Iran Contra scandal sort of thing, where they were using, South American cocaine to fund slush funds and wars and whatnot. So yeah, I think there's so much happening right now that once the Americans kind of went off with cannabis, I mean, look, you've got cities now with decriminalized natural psychedelics as well, which is another question I wanted to ask you as a Dutch national. With the history that the country has had with psilocybin, and with this sort of approach of it classically being a soft drug until obviously the early noughts, when there was various incidences that got it changed so that basically the truffles could be sold but not the actual mushrooms, even though there are plenty of places that will sell you some mushrooms if you know. Um, do you think that the Dutch, if then legalization moves forward with cannabis, that there would then be this natural progression towards, soft entheogens like psilocybin?
Yeah, yeah, it should be like if they're classified the same, then why should we treat them differently, right?
Hmm.
So if there's, but then again, probably the substance should will probably be treated and reviewed first, in the same way that cannabis is now, because we have a history with cannabis for over 50 years in this sort of tolerated system, and that has not
Mm.
been the case uh, for psilocybin in that way.
Hmm.
But yeah, I guess with the available research on the matter already, I think that it's not crazy that psilocybin will be legalized in more countries all
Mm.
over the world soon.
Yeah, I mean, because there's already, I know of at least two British organizations that do mushroom retreats where they fly people out from the UK to Holland, and under sort of protection of this discretionary tolerance, they're able to perform these ceremonies. There's no sort of cash exchanged for products, etc. And it just, as we were talking about the American brands coming to Europe to kind of be able to show the culture, I'm just wondering how far away we are from American mushroom brands and ayahuasca companies and all the rest of it flying to Europe and setting up like mushroom lounges. Or because I mean, there's already conversations about MDMA social spaces. Obviously, these are quite far off conversations and they're quite esoteric, in kind of the realm of activism and academics that I operate in. But the fact that they're starting to put papers together on shit like this shows there is an appetite for this. So I was just sort of curious as to, because again, the Dutch are held up as kind of a culture of tolerance and of kind of, I don't want to say eccentricity because that's the wrong word, but an acceptance of an ability to truly be oneself, to really be liberal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that this legalization movement, like or the move we're seeing towards is is something that will not stop with cannabis alone, probably. But
Mm.
at the pace it's been moving, you gotta think, like, you gotta ask yourself, when should we expect something? And then when you look at it realistically, the answer is probably not anytime soon,
Mm.
because we're not there with cannabis yet either. You
Mhm.
know, we're we're not even into the experiment phase.
Yeah.
we're not
Yeah.
we're not even actually started yet,
Hmm.
and we I remember writing my first article about this in 2017 or something.
Wow.
2017, I think. Yeah.
Mm. Is it I mean, I've got so many dates flying around in my head from different projects. Is it a 5-year project initially?
Four actually. They want
Four.
to do it 4 years. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But now
Okay.
that they started with the free phase, it's probably going to be 4.5 or something, and then evaluation. I don't know what they're going to evaluate. I did see a report about some things, some checks they did. Uh, they did some what do you call it, questionnaires they sent
Mhm.
out to like only a few hundred people in a few of the cities that were selected, and they looked at a few crime numbers and some sales figures, and we're gonna see. I don't know what their plan is,
Mm.
what their goals are. I don't think they've determined like the experiment is a success if this, or is not a success if that. I don't think that is determined in any way.
That's good that it doesn't feel like there's an objective outcome that they are consciously or
No.
unconsciously sort of working towards, to actually want to truly study what will happen. I think
Yeah,
if
yeah,
it can be unbiased, that'll be not just beneficial to Holland, but the rest of the world, because I feel everywhere else is skewed by business. Going, you're going to find that our system that makes us a lot of money is best, right? Yeah, then here's some money. Go look at it. You know?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Interesting. All right, I feel a lot better about the future of the coffee shops. So let's have a quick conversation, if that's all right, about Barcelona, because I'm feeling a little bit less confident about the social clubs down there. Um,
Yeah,
it's an interesting one in that it seems to be in a similar thing. The reason I was concerned about Amsterdam was your current mayor, whose name I'm going to butcher, Femke Halsma.
yeah,
Um, yeah, and her kind of approach of trying to drive away tourists. And obviously we see it in the UK press every January. We have a joke of like every January we see the same story. You can't go to Amsterdam anymore and you can't go buy weed. And it's just the same kind of scaremongery bull crap. But then a load of travel companies kind of go, well, wait a minute, we make loads of money off, stoners going for 3 days over to Amsterdam. We'll put some stories in. And there's just this back and forth. But it's also then it's another mayor in Barcelona city that seems to have basically come out and gone, we want to eradicate the cannabis social clubs, whereas at least the Amsterdam mayor has kind of just been, no, no, we want to get rid of the tourists and allowing the understanding that it's a bit
yeah.
nationalistic,
The,
but
the,
allowing your own
the
people to
Dutch
do it.
mayor
It's
doesn't have the Dutch mayor doesn't have like a lot of support in the city council for her cannabis plan.
good to know.
So don't we don't expect any crazy stuff. She gets a little win here and there just to keep her happy, but it's not that the big plans come through. Obviously, there's a big lobby making sure that the cannabis industry is represented for as much as possible in the city council as well.
Hmm.
And yeah, in terms of Barcelona, that's pretty scary. I mean, I don't know what to expect this March when we go over there. Last year, before we wanted to go, they closed down cookies. That was already like pretty weird, and we were all waiting for it to reopen again, and it never did. You know, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'm now looking a little bit anxiously towards March. March, I hope we're not gonna be arrested anywhere or whatever. I mean, they
Mm.
know what's gonna be happening. I'm scared. I'm gonna take my medical jar with me, and I'm gonna make sure that I'm gonna keep my weed in there so that there's never an issue that it's been bought in the club or whatever. When I walk out of there, it's in a
Hmm.
medical thingy, and I just hope that yeah, I'm not I'm not gonna be arrested. That would be
Yeah.
fucked up.
It's mental. I mean, Some light, I suppose, I can shed on this for yourself and myself and yourself and anyone else that's listening that may be going to Cannabis. Um, this shouldn't be construed in any which way as legal advice, as always. Um, but from my understanding, reading and have speaking with people that run coffee shops, I've previously run coffee shops. Basically, it's a civil offence for small level possession. So unless you're walking the street with quite a vast amount or evidence that you're dealing, or they've seen you dealing on the street, it doesn't matter if you bought and it's in different bags. That's evidence that you've your coffee shop, sorry, the club activity, as it were. It's 600 quid basically for cannabis concentrates for some reason, including hash can be up to 1,200 euros of a fine. They can't, and again, under Spanish law, they are not allowed to search in your underwear. Do with that information what you want. They cannot perform a strip search, stop and search on into your underwear. So again, do with that what you will. If you are a prescription holder from the UK, we obviously, I don't know how it is under Dutch system. You will have to contact your clinic. They will advise you to contact I can't remember if it's consulate or embassy, whichever one it is. And you have to get like a back and forth, and you're supposed to get a letter. That letter means that plus your prescription means you can travel freely in Spain. Be mindful though, as I've had an interaction with Spanish police where they don't speak English and I don't speak Spanish, and it was fucking awkward as hell. Luckily, I didn't have any marijuana on me at the time, and the money I had in my wallet they couldn't bribe from me, which they looked so eagerly wanting. Um, that was actually the first few days into Spanibus, I think 2018, 2019. It was a fun interaction. But yeah,
Warm
basically,
memories.
if you have a prescription pot in somewhere from your territory where it is legal, that will give you some form of discretion. But other which wise, like I said, they can't look in your underwear. Do with that what you will. Generally, most of them can. Again, this is not life advice per se. A small amount of euros may make a Spanish cop go away because ultimately he'll have to deal with you. And if he doesn't speak English and you don't speak Spanish, he'll have to get a translator, you have to get somebody else. Da, 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 da. So I'm not saying carry extra money. I'm just saying be extra mindful. That's all I'm saying.
Cash is king. Cash is king. Cash is king still.
100%, 100%. But yeah, I'm equally a little bit apprehensive. I think it's the Catalonian region are obviously at odds with Spain as a larger government, have been for quite a while. But it is interestingly the Barcelona City Council that are currently being the issue. So that's the first time it's kind of attacking itself. But it was the Spanish Supreme Court, the larger territory, that took away the Barcelona protection for the clubs to exist. That was done, like I said, 2021. So for 2 years, it's kind of been on a discretion that they're now private premises. So it used to be before they had a municipal license that meant that there were cannabis clubs specifically. They took that away because the Supreme Court took it away. So all the clubs went, oh, no, 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 no. We're not cannabis clubs. We're private spaces. Oh, these guys smoke weed. Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. Do you know what I mean? So they're now going to come in and they've said initially it's going to be 20 investigation or 20 sites. I can't remember what the word was that I saw that was translated. 20, I'm assuming clubs, sites, spaces that will be inspected. And I think, again, speculation here, what they're going to do is use that interpretation of the rule to go, oh my God, there's weed here. Do you know what I mean? And I think that they might try and do that. And if they can hit 4 or 5 of them, it might scare many more into closing down. I will obviously try and get a guest from more informed in the Spanish club system on, and we'll discuss that further. But yeah, I think
If you need any
they'll be smart.
suggestions, I can probably put you in touch with a very kind social club owner in Barcelona who would love to talk on the matter. I think.
I would appreciate that. I would appreciate that. I'll make a note to get that off you. Yeah, because I think again the amount of money that they generate in that region. I think the article I was reading in Forbes of all places said that the clubs stimulate somewhere between 6 to 12 million tourists who have traveled to Barcelona. In addition to the rest of it, which is quite phenomenal because they claim that the clubs only serve 4 million members. So basically, the tourists attract more than the members have. Obviously, the data's skewed because of people like myself that go over and have to re-sign up to a club every 12 months because I'm not there to keep a membership going. But generally, there does seem to be good arguments for economic activity and sort of proliferal economic stimulation. So I think they're going to struggle to truly eradicate them. I think what they're basically going to end up doing is kind of what the Dutch are doing and hopefully have a progressive approach of what is it what does it actually do? What can we do with it? And what should the future look like, you know?
What we're seeing is that Spain wants to move on medical as well, you know?
Hmm.
And if they're going to want to move on medical in the same way that the UK is doing it, then a lot of those social clubs house the patients or clients, customers that they want.
100%. And it's a backwards thing of it. Again, we know that social interaction, like I often speak of the culture saving me. It was, as you say before, being accepted by like-minded people, going from being the villain and the bad guy to everybody, and finding a space where there is others, that you don't have to share the same politics or the same experiences necessarily, outside of cannabis, but from that you can resonate and really connect with them, and from that, you know, heal from the harm of prohibition that's inflicted on the people.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing, these social spaces, so long may they fucking continue. Um, I got one final question, if that's all right, about sort of policy, which was, obviously you've been, as you say, experienced on both sides, as it were. I don't like there being sides. I don't even necessarily like the words medical or rec, but they serve as a way to speak of these kind of manifestations of the industry. The United States recently, it seems to be gaining a lot of traction. It started as a simple letter between Health and Human Services and the government. The DEA have then stepped in, and they're arguing over who has the right or the procedural capacity to reschedule cannabis in America. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on the idea of them, as has been suggested, making it Schedule 3, technically meaning that federally across everywhere in the US, although barring states' rights and whichever amendment number I can't remember off the top of my head, you would need a prescription to access cannabis across the board. What's your thoughts on that?
Um, kind of double because it's good in a way if it's more available to people. So then, if the availability means that you need to register in some sort, and then might be restricted in some sort in another compartment area of your life because they can see everything, you know, uh, that's that's the scary part, you know.
Hmm.
That's, I mean, I think that for most people, cannabis use is therapeutical or medical or whatever, you know. Um, so moving towards a more accepted system of, you know, the vulnerability that cannabis can heal in a lot of people and bring people together, um, through that vulnerability, because it's a very how do you call it, cannabis disarms, you know,
Mm.
like,
Hmm.
in a way, you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not a drug to be like the bigger man on, you know,
Hmm.
in a head to head. It's like you sit down, have a pizza and a great talk about life, you know. You can't smoke a joint and hate on, you know, I mean, most people become brothers after sharing cannabis, you know. It's so having that, like, acknowledgement in a way, like, as it being a healing substance is nice, you know,
Hmm.
but meaning that also, like, everybody needs to go through a whole thing to get access to it. That makes it hard, you know.
Mm. Yeah, well, I think it creates then, anywhere we put in a restriction, or I think actually my sign says down there, yeah, any limitation applied to the individual is a continuation of cannabis prohibition. And so you can limit the systems above it. So I think of, like, say, food. I could go right now and eat 20 pizzas. I could eat 20 pizzas every day to my life until I literally clog my arteries and die. I could go to the nearest
Yeah,
shop, buy all the whiskey I wanted, and drink myself to death this evening. There aren't these limitations. Same with the car. I can get in my car and go as fast as my car will go, 150 or whatever. and crash said vehicle. It's within, I am allowed the autonomy to choose that. And I just want that lack of limit applied in the same way with cannabis, obviously twinned with
Yeah.
education and awareness. But I agree. I want there to be that kind of therapeutic acceptance, this understanding that cannabis should be a frontline defense, not a last ditch effort. You know, I've had a mother with a child with epilepsy on who spoke of the NHS in this country wanting to give a child brain surgery and drill 20 odd holes in the kid's head rather than just try fucking cannabis oil. And it's a mental way. So I want that acknowledgement twinned with, as you say, the freedom of the individual to cultivate their own relationship with cannabis, because it will be different. And it's different in the clinical settings. You getting given cannabis in a white room with, you know, a guy with a clipboard and whatever else, compared to sitting with your friends and really connecting and spending that time together. It's a completely different experience, and this leads to different outcomes. So I think, yeah, I hope the conversation in America leads to descheduling, and they can, you know, schedule three all of the pharmaceutical products, things like Epidiolex, Sativex, these kind of designed, manufactured drugs, as it were, that are based on cannabis. But cannabis itself, the fact is, you and I know from a tiny seed, you know, we can grow a million plants, you know, theoretically through cloning, etc. It's a self-sustaining resource. And once people are able to sustain themselves with these resources, everything then becomes kind of a shared excess. And I can't help but feel that that intention of cannabis in its culture is antithetical, like the opposite to this kind of legalization model. So they're going to try and legalize everywhere, and it's not going to work the way they want. And our culture is just going to build, and eventually we'll take over those industries, and we'll win those battles step by
For
step, you know.
sure. For sure.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Um, I am aware of time here, and I'm grateful for how much you've given me already. I was just going to ask you my cliched last question, if that's all right,
Okay.
and then I'll let you get off to your very busy day, sir.
Thank you.
So, where are we? My last quick, I don't even know where to look for this. What does the future hold for you?
A lot of nice things. Yeah, a lot of nice adventures. This I've had some hardship in my private life over the last years. You know, within my family, I have a beautiful daughter, and it was very hard her first years. And now that everything's back on track, and she's happy and healthy, uh, I've just decided that we're going to do everything we can to have a beautiful life. And now with the coffee shop, that's one of the things that's going to help do that for us all, and that's going to make me able to invest more in the high cloud, invest more in my personal life, in different things, in different aspects of life, life's quality, and that's gonna, hopefully bring out more good things in all ways. I want to build more on the high cloud, build more within the concept of the coffee shop, what we want to do. So yeah, leave something for my daughter. I'm doing it all for her now. So
That's
so
life.
yeah, bro. Yeah,
That's awesome. That's the kind of positivity I love to end this podcast on. So yeah,
perfect.
man, appreciate your time. Look forward to catching up for a smoke either at Cannabis or hopefully the 1% Club sometime, brother. I'll
Absolutely.
include links to podcast and everything down below. And yeah, just want to again thank you for your time, thank you for your work, and yeah, look forward to catching up soon, brother.
I appreciate your invitation, brother, and the fact that you let me ramble on here for as long as I could on what we love most. And I hope a lot of people are listening were inspired by this and are inspired by your content. You're doing a great job. Thank you so much again for the
Cheers, brother.
invitation. And looking forward to seeing you in Spannabis, on Spannabis, and here.
Yeah, man, 100%. All right, cheers, brother.
Cool.
Much
100%.
appreciated.
Later.
All right, take it easy, man. Peace and love. Bye. Well, there you go, folks. That was Uncle Kush. Yeah, really enjoyed that. Really feel quite optimistic, quite positive, quite maybe slightly hyper or over caffeinated. I haven't figured out, although I've gone through all my coffee, so maybe a combination of both. But yeah, do feel quite a bit more optimistic about the Dutch cannabis scene and the future of the coffee shops than I did before I started that recording. So yeah, feel good, feel good. Yeah, I'm a bit concerned about Barcelona. I think generally there's quite a few of us are getting a bit concerned about what's going on. There are general rumblings. There's obviously some media articles which I'll include below for you guys to keep an eye on what's sort of happening, or rather be as informed as I guess myself is at this instance right now. Well, from the media's point of view, anyway, at least. There is some sort of official announcements that have been made, some quotes from Mayor and Deputy Mayor that I think are quite insightful in terms of their intentions. Like I said, I don't think it was abolish. I can't remember which word was used. Whichever word was used, it was basically get rid of the coffee shop, the cannabis social clubs in Barcelona. So that does to me seem, at least tacitly, a declaration of war. But we'll see how that pans out in a few weeks when we are out over in Barcelona. So yeah, I'll keep you guys informed of that as and when we go. Obviously, like I said, I'll try and reach out to a guest. I think Uncle Kush, today's guest, had a suggestion which we will have a conversation about, see who they are, and yeah, try and get them onto the podcast so we can learn a bit more about what's happening from somebody on the inside. Always best to be as informed as possible. Um, yeah, I'm not going to waffle shit for much longer, folks. I am just going to thank you for your time as always. I am going to apologize for the audio level quality in that. I am going to try and fix this shortly. You fix this in fucking editing shortly. I don't know, maybe remove this of me telling you to fix it. I don't know, leave it in. I don't care. Um, if you enjoyed this podcast, please do give us a thumbs up, a rating, a like, a subscribe, a share, whatever it is that you find folk do to show your appreciation. If you enjoyed it, like I said, you should give us a thumbs down if you didn't enjoy it. You know, I appreciate the honest feedback in either way. That being true with ratings as well. I am trying to provide the best quality. I don't want to say product because I'm not really selling you anything. I don't try and sell you anything. I'm trying to um come to get a greater understanding about topics of interest, hence the Simpa Life. So I like to share that every week with you fine folks. So yeah, if you've enjoyed it, do show your appreciation. All right, check us out on all social media platforms. I say all, the majority of social media platforms. I am looking at some other ones right now as well, so you may see me popping up in places you haven't prior. At the Simpa Life, check out thesimpalife.com for more details, exclusive articles, content, and blogs with more stuff coming soon. Yeah, you've been beautiful. Thank you for your time, folks. We will see you next week with somebody. I don't know. It'll be awesome. You'll love it. It'll be great. All right. Peace and love, folks. Be awesome to each other. Oh, I accidentally got too high. Oh, in that second joint, but Jesus Christ, I am baked. Hot boxing here is not helping either. Woo, and outro, outro. So I'm gonna drink some water. That's probably gonna solve my problem.